My name is Haley. I like to knit and crochet, and I work and I go to school, so I don't do either of those very often, but I like to do them. And this is also my YouTube channel that I post on about once every 6 months, maybe. Welcome. This is Rosie. We are here to discuss today my knit and crochet goals for 2025, of which when I'm filming this, it is not yet, but when you are watching this, it will be. Generally speaking, I'm not a really big resolution person usually. I think that you can kind of change your life and the way that you live and who you are at any point in the year. It doesn't have to be New Year's Day, but I do think that right now I'm kind of itching for a change. There's a lot in my life that's kind of making it more possible. I am only taking one class this spring, so I'll have a lot more free time, probably not any summer classes. I am traveling internationally for the first time, we think, this summer. So a lot of that kind of clues me into a change and motivates me towards changes I want to make more so. I have about 3 big goals that we'll go over for the year. They kind of have a general theme to them. The first one is to use up my stash. I have a lot of acrylic yarn. I try not to have a lot of acrylic yarn, but I have a lot of acrylic yarn. I'm a little bit of a shopaholic. I'm a little bit of a retail therapy person. I'm trying to be better about it, but capitalism gets us all, I guess. So I own a lot of yarn. I'll insert a B-roll here. That's a lot of yarnage. That's a lot of stashage. I need to deal with that. So the kind of thing that I'm looking to do with my acrylic is going to be more like winter accessories, home decor, like throw pillows and blankets. Because it's all, like, I would say 99% of my stash is acrylic yarn. Acrylic yarn, for those of you who may not know, is very synthetic, and because it's so synthetic, I mean, it's basically plastic, it doesn't breathe like a natural fiber like cotton or even wool would. And so I've made one cardigan literally ever out of acrylic yarn one time, and it is so unbearably hot to wear. And part of that is that I live in Texas, so it never actually gets that cold here for me to be able to wear more of like an acrylic item. My stash causes me a lot of stress. I have way too much of it, and at this point where I'm at in my crafting journey, there are a lot of new techniques and new things that I want to make, like garments, especially sweaters and those sorts of things, socks even, that I just can't quite make with the stash that I have right now, and I feel guilty purchasing new yarn because of that. So that's where I'm at with my stash. So for my stash right now, I'm making a ton of blankets. That's most of what I have planned. I'm working on a honeycomb blanket that's kind of different, but inspired by the one that I'm working on right now that you'll be seeing hopefully in January in a video, will be the Be Happy honeycomb blanket crochet pattern by Crafting Happiness. Looks like that. I'm going for a slightly more realistic look. I don't want to do applique bees on it, but I do want like a honeycomb vibe, something like this Pinterest photo of a honeycomb. That's the idea. I may use some surface crochet to do like highlights and lowlights. I haven't decided yet, but it is like a thought that's in my mind. I also have a couple of granny square projects that are inspired by other creators or some that are just granny square projects. I'm working on one that is like a monotone but different shades of purple. That's just like a regular granny square. Other that I'm slow going on is inspired by Avery Marie Designs on Instagram. She makes these incredible granny square blankets that, like, I'm sure take forever. I don't know how she puts them out so fast, but she does. She does sell them too, so if it's something you're interested in but you don't want to make, definitely take a look at that. But those are kind of the things that I want to do to really use up my stash. Now there are going to be other things, like I could use some bags that I'm not going to use super frequently or won't have hefty things in them. I can make that out of acrylic. Otherwise I would want like cotton or something a little more durable. I can also make like a lot of scarves and hats and mittens and gloves, those sorts of things, as well as amigurumi, which I do have some ideas on what I want to do for amigurumi this year. I don't have those patterns written down for you, sorry. Try a lot of new techniques. I hear myself say I can't do that, like, way too much. For things that, it's not necessarily that I can't do, but it's that I've never done and it kind of scares me. I don't want to get complacent. I make so many scarves just because I don't want to be stressed out or I don't want to think too hard. And personally, I'm fine, but like, that's a lot of scarves, especially living in Texas. It's just too many. And there are other things that I would feel more fulfilled by that I'm holding myself back from for honestly no good reason. And that's kind of why I want to challenge myself to do some new things. So within that, I do have some patterns in mind. I have them written down for myself, so I'm sorry if I am shifting. I just want to make sure I pronounce everything correctly. The first is going to be knit color work. I really want to try some kind of knit color work. There is a specific Scrflette pattern by DEGEN, I want to say, DEGEN. It's called the Two of Daisies Scrflette pattern. They make some really cool, more avant-garde patterns that I think are really neat, but not super wearable for me, just because I am in a financial services industry with my day job, and I'm honestly a little more like laid back conservative, just with the things that I wear. I don't want to be super off the wall, super crazy. I think it's really cool to see other people express themselves that way, but in my fashion, I'm more so looking for comfort and wearability. Also, for knit color work, I do want to try Rish by, and I'm going to butcher this, I'm so sorry. I think it's Lucía Ruiz de Aguirre. That's my guess. I do apologize if I mispronounce that. Absolutely, if you want to put a phonetic pronunciation in the comment section to kind of help me learn, I'm very happy to. I do also want to try my hand at garment construction of some type. I've never successfully completed knitting a whole like sweater or top for myself. So for that, I want to make the Twiggy tee by Heidi Grunwald. That one is on Ravelry. I'll link it. I'll link all of them down below that I'm giving names and pattern writers for. I also, for garment construction, I want to try that Eira or Eira sweater by Fiskum Sunde. Those are my guesses of how to pronounce that. It definitely looks like a more like Western Eastern European name, so I apologize if I mispronounced that by any means. Then I also really want to try knit cables. There's one pattern in particular that has a lot of cables that looks relatively simple that I have been wanting to try since I learned how to knit years ago. It is a scarf, Sumi, but it is the Heart Cable Knit Scarf pattern by Studio Knit. I'll insert pictures for all of these. Then I do want to try putting some beading in on my knitwork, and for that, as like a smaller, kind of scrappier project, I do want to try the Polly Pocket Pouch by Material Grrrlz, which is a free pattern linked on their website. I'll put that in the description. And then I do want to try knitting some scrunchies, not by any particular pattern. I do think kind of just using scrap, working with the gauge and the hair ties and things that I have to make something more approachable for me is more so my thing, just because I've tried knit scrunchies before and I didn't have the right yarn for the pattern and it did not go well for me. So I'm gonna kind of play that one by ear just because it's a rectangle you fold around a hair tie. It's not overwhelmingly complicated in my opinion. Then there are some crochet techniques as well that I do want to try. This is not a comprehensive list by any means, but this is just what came to mind when I was brainstorming. The first is actually going to be tapestry crochet. Specifically, I want to make the Hug pattern by Lupe. There's a Ko-fi for that one. It's linked in the description. Then for a garment, I want to try, I believe it's called the Obelilsk, because there's L-I-L in the middle, or I want to say obelisk, but it's not that. It's Obelilsk Pullover by Cozy Knot Crochet. It's kind of hard to find the pattern name because Etsy has so many SEO things in the title for anything, but it's by Cozy Knot Crochet on Etsy. It's called the Obelilsk. Obelilsk. There's an L-I-L in the middle, and I don't know how to pronounce that because my brain keeps wanting to say obelisk, but that doesn't look like what it is. Pullover, and again, cozy, not crochet on Etsy. I do also want to try pattern writing. There's a couple things. There's some blankets I have in mind that I'm kind of waiting to use down my stash a bit before I try to like conceptualize and make. It's very cottagecore, it's very grandma-core, it's very like gingham, little bit of like color work, but very cutesy, very grandma is kind of the vibe. And goal number 3 out of 3, so we're near the end, is for kind of me as a person and my general attitude and choices that I make throughout my day. And that's going to be to make the hard choice more often. I am a busy person. I am by nature very stressed, very anxious, and often that kind of leads me into making whatever's the easiest decision, taking the path of least resistance for myself. And when I take that path of least resistance for myself, I often end up doing things and thinking things that I don't like, I just am okay with. And I don't want to live that way long term. A lot of that means working on my diet. I love sugar and I love carbs, and I am almost pre-diabetic. I'm like a 5.6, 5.7 is pre-diabetic as far as I know. Don't ask me, I'm not a doctor. But like those are things that I need to work on for my own health, and it is something that's important to me, but it often falls to the wayside in the name of like homework or work or my hobbies and passions that like make me feel better mentally. Now I know I would feel better mentally if I treated my body better like physically, but it's just hard to get there and make that habit change. It is something I'm kind of focused on, just challenging myself to make that hard choice for myself, especially when it's easier to do so than at other times. Other than that, like exercise, getting up early in the morning. I do want to go before work to exercise so that that time doesn't get cut into if I stay late at work, or I have homework to do after work, or the dog needs something, or the boyfriend needs something. No offense to dog and boyfriend. Or like grocery shopping, like adult responsibilities that take place after work. I don't want that to cut into my time for myself and for feeling good and being good and moving my body. So I do want to try to start getting up earlier. I failed at that today. Oh, I want to buy less stuff. That's a hard choice for me. I want to buy less stuff. I want to do everything kind of in my power to detach myself from the perceived value of material possessions. I love having stuff. It makes me so happy for no reason. I love buying stuff. I won't buy things online because I like the instant gratification of this thing in my hands that I now own. Even if it's something I'll never touch again. And even if it's something I'll touch infrequently or a one-time use item. I want to read more. I want to read at least 1 book per like quarter of the year. So that's 4 books this year. I'm already a little bit into a book called Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldry. Bookshops and Bone Dust. Which is like a cozy fantasy novel about an orc who goes on like an emotional adventure after being injured in the line of battle. Thus far, loving it. Those are kind of some of the things that are important to me in the coming year. I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you have thought about what you could do for yourself to make yourself feel better and do better in this coming year. Some self-care, some options. If you have any like big resolutions or changes, even if they're small, that you want to make and you want to share them, I would love to hear about them. I don't want this to be a full-time job, but I do love it as a hobby, and I love sharing and I love hearing. So I know I have like literally 3 subscribers, but if you want to share something, you can totally comment it. If that feels like too much, too public, too much for any reason, feel free to DM me on Instagram. If it's creepy or weird, I will block you, but if it's sweet or nice, or even just neutral, I won't. But thanks. That's all I have for you today. I hope you're having a magical 2025 so far, and I look forward to sharing mine with you. And have a good day. You deserve it.